Alain. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I'm Bimo from IDN Times, Indonesia. And this is my first question. What is the biggest challenge in directing the movements and expressions of ape characters to make them look natural on screen?
Well, obviously they're monitored so well with the motion capture system. Um, the big challenge is really balancing the intensities of their expressions, depending on the situation, on the scene. Um, and it's always something, from take to take that is a challenge to make sure that they deliver in the proper way and in a similar way. And even from different days of shooting, the evolution of the character during the film is it's always a challenge to keep track of where they are, also because of the non-chronological way the film is shot, obviously, because your characters will evolve over time, and their persona, somewhat will be affected, whether they've been through traumatic events, and so it's important to keep track and make sure the actor is in line with this in the proper manner. Yeah.
That's amazing. And what was the most challenging shot to create during the filming process of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
Wow, that's I'm not sure I can answer that question. There's so much. It's you know, it's a handful. But you know, I have to say that sometimes for the actors, and it just came to mind, but I remember that we were shooting in a field of grass, and actors had to be on horses, and sometimes the horses were um, substituted with step ladders for
Yeah.
reasons, for technical reasons, just so we have the actor in position. And I remember it's always challenging for the actor to actually get the right feel when, because being on a horse, for example, is such a uh, it's such a relationship, and there's something happens. There's a bonding, with your body and the body of the horse, and so I can imagine that, an actor on a step ladder in the middle of a field that would have to, it'd be challenging to get him to have, that exact feel. So that's one thing that comes to mind. It struck me.
Okay, and there any special preparations or techniques you use to help actors find the emotions and unique characteristic of each ape's character?
Yes, when I was myself a physical actor for most of my life, performed for, been in the business for 45 years, but in live performance. And so the body is really important. And the techniques that I use, especially for actors that have to be in a physical role, are very similar to that kind of work. Um, I, c- you know, I couldn't name a specific technique because every actor in his life goes through a series of teachers and a series of methods, and then over time develop his own perception of what works. And with years and years of, for myself, observing and coaching performers on a stage, I mean, we're talking about thousands of shows. Um, we develop an intuitive approach to how each actor or each group of actor will become the physical performer. Um, but mainly the aim is always to make sure that you get an actor very aware of his body from head to toe, and that we, as much as possible, get rid of habits that they have acquired over the course of their lives, so that we have a very nice, neutral, open vessel to receive a new character. And this is the plot that I use in general. And once that is achieved, then what I do is we start putting the attributes, the physical attributes of the character or creature that they're playing. And then within this, both the personality of the actor and the fusion of the new character that we're bringing in physically they're starting to blend together. They become one, and from there, the character starts appearing, and sometimes in a fraction of a second, oh, this is it. Yes, that's the character. And it's very interactive, and it's very insight oriented, feeling oriented. I have an eye that knows when a character is not true. It's just years, of course, of practice does that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the perspective of the narrative, Proximus very much would be considered the villain, but I think he's a type of visionary. He has the ability to be able to conceive outside of the present and can see and think about the future. And to him, he realizes that they're running out of time. Apes are running out of time. They need to possess and get a hold of this information that they seek so that they can continue to be the apex beings on the planet Earth. Proximus believes that if humans are in control again, that all apes will end up either dead or in cages at zoos or being experimented on in laboratories, because he's studied human history and he knows that he can't let that happen again.
Yeah, that's great. And for Peter, could you describe the preparation you did to portray your character in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
Absolutely, sure. Well, we were very fortunate in that we were able to attend ape school for weeks before we started shooting. So with our movement coach slash guru, Alain Gauthier, who is an incredible performer and he's very passionate about apes. He's also a biologist, I believe. So we learned in ape school, we learned about the anatomy, the physiognomy of apes, the skeletal structures, how their muscles are built into their bodies. And so we learned how to amble, how to walk around, how to sit down, how to sit, how to quadruped, which is walking using all four limbs. And then we started to build a character based out of the physicality. The physicality of a bonobo is pretty different than the physicality of an orangutan. That's different than a gorilla. So we were all working together, experiencing ourselves as apes. We built relationships with each other as apes, pretty much before we were developing relationships with each other as actors. And then my personal process or my particular sort of set of challenges was to then learn build how I would speak. And Raka is pretty wordy sometimes, and so at the times I had to take the text and truncate it or make it sound less human. I was able to do that with Andy Serkis under his mentorship, and just him helping me to craft my text so that it feels less human and more like the possibility. And this is all, again, imagination work, right? To make it believable for the audience. And so then you take all that, discovery, and you bring that to set, and then you just play with your fellow cast members.
It becomes magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then after you leave the set, a year of work was done after we left, and first time we saw the film, it was like this incredible sorcery, like some kind of wizardry, magic occurred, because then all of a sudden I could recognize every single ape in the movie. I was like, oh my God, there's Peter, there's Travis, there I am. Oh my gosh! And every idiosyncratic, all the minute nuances that we put forward made it into the film. So it was really wonderful to see. It was like a magic trick, some fantastic magic trick.
That took a year. It's like, I'm going to show you this
Yeah.
trick, but it's going to take a year to make. And then,
Yeah.
boom.
Amazing that they actually achieved that in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they worked right up to the end.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like they started editing, or I think they started compiling footage. They were doing that as we were shooting.
filmed, yeah.
Then they broke camp from Australia and came to, I think, LA and started, laying everything out in April, and they were editing, I think, all the way up until maybe 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So just goes to show you. So when you watch the credits, you see how many people it took to make this. Like, we finished our portion of the contribution in April of, February of 23.
Yeah.
So then they have been, and then it's in their hands, and the collective process is the magic that you get to see before you.
You see those credits at the end, you see all those names. Those people put all of their hearts, their professionalism into it, and it's just, I applaud every single one of them. We're so lucky that we got to benefit from their gift. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was first asked, what would you do with the next Planet of the Apes, I wasn't sure. There was a reason to make another Planet of the Apes. The previous trilogy wrapped it up so well, and as a human, as people, we're so wired for beginning, middle, end, 1, 2, 3. Being a part 4, it usually doesn't work in movies, and so the whole idea was, can we figure out a way to stand on our own 2 feet while still holding on to all this great stuff that had come before us, right? And the easiest way to do that, the thing that kind of unlocked so much potential for us, was to fast forward several hundred years, right, after the end of Caesar. And it gave us all those opportunities for the audience to kind of rediscover the world. We got to see how far advanced the different ape worlds had become, right? We got to see what has happened to the story of Caesar. What's happened to the humans? There's all these great questions that kind of arise when you just get some distance from the previous movies. Now, with that said, we didn't want to abandon Caesar. He's one of our favorite characters of all time, So Caesar's very much a character in this movie, right? He's an idea in the movie that while we're not relying on the previous movies we can stand on our own 2 feet, we use all these ideas to enhance our story. You know what I mean? And so, we set out to basically make a new chapter, on a legacy of movies that have stretched back 50 years, 9 movies before us, right? So hopefully we've done that.
Yeah, it's great. And with the death of Caesar, Noah automatically becomes the central character for this film. How did you build Noah's character from scratch to become the most important character?
Yeah, so when we were originally designing this character, we didn't want to just try to do another Caesar, basically, right? We chose a character that was a bit younger, right? This is more of a coming of age adventure, kind of a little bit more a classic kind of timeless hero's journey kind of idea. And we liked the idea that he was a blank page. He's this innocent, sort of naive character that we get to watch be influenced by a world he doesn't understand, by ideas that he's never seen, he's never contemplated before, right? And so it was he's an everyman, in a way. He's the character that we can see ourselves in, right? He's also a very good, kind ape that has a lot of courage, and it's fun to watch his character grow throughout the course of the movie, and ultimately arrive at the place that he does, right? Because we have, big plans, big ideas for where this character can ultimately go, if we're lucky enough to make more movies.
What challenge did you face when directing this film? We all know that this film used visual effects and most of the characters are apes. What challenge did you face?
Well, I think all movies are kind of difficult challenges. They're always different. This one has just an added level of difficulty in the strange process of motion capture and performance capture, and the whole visual effects component of it all. There's only 30 non-VFX shots in the entire movie, so the sheer amount of work was more than the previous movies. We just have more apes in this movie, So that alone was a challenge. I think coming up with whole new characters was a challenge. The process itself is very difficult, right? I have to shoot the movie twice. I shoot the once with the actors on set, and then I have to remove the actors and shoot the same shot again. As complicated as it may be, and all the intricate timings of racking focus and panning at certain times and imagining the previous shot, and without all those references, we have to basically shoot the movie twice, so that alone is kind of its own complicating factor, if I lose half of my day, to shooting basically these plates. So yeah, altogether the process itself is it's not conducive to being spontaneous, I guess, right? And so that's how do we create kind of a sense of urgency and spontaneity and a kind of its own life in this very kind of technical process was difficult. But like I said, we're working with a lot of really talented people around us who've done this before, right? And so we got through it.
Yeah, could you share any exciting and interesting moments while working with the actors?
They're all exciting, honestly. It's always fun to work with them. The actors, I can't say enough nice things about them. They all came in kind of dedicated and committed to the strange process of acting like an ape on set with this wearing all this technology, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think Owen in particular deserves a lot of credit for, just being brave enough to follow in the footsteps of Andy Serkis, the king, you know what I mean? And he did a great job. And same goes for Freya, who plays May in the movie. She's got to, convince us that she's seeing apes on the other end, when in reality she's not. She's seeing these dotted up faces of these actors playing, making funny faces and sounds, And so, we all kind of worked hard to kind of create this hopefully illusion for people that the Planet of the Apes is a real thing,
Do you use reference from previous films in the Planet of the Apes franchise? Do you think are important to use in this film?
Yeah, so I grew up on the 1968 original with Charlton Heston. I grew up watching that. I'm sure the ideas went over my head, but the images were really they're in my brain forever, right? They're iconic. So when we set out to make this movie, we knew that we were going to have on one side the Caesar trilogy, but on the other side, we knew we had this 1968 original that was way off on the horizon. And so we kind of have a foot in both camps, right? And so there's lots of references, I think, from both movies, inside our movie, so that we feel like we're all creating a bridge, I guess, to this awesome franchise that's lasted for 50 plus years,